already, so you're getting up. Now, do you long for the good old days when we were less concerned with what was in our foods than we were about whether there was enough to go around? Many of us can't believe what fussy eaters younger people are. I mean, though they may like Thai curry, they won't eat liver. Many of the dishes we grew up with have disappeared from family menus. So we thought it was time to find out whether they really taste as good as we remember. Geoffrey, come and join me as we welcome top chef Ed Baines. So we've asked you at home what your favourite foods of yesteryear were, and you came up with tripe, you came up with spam, but what Ed's going to be cooking now, he'll look at those later in the programme, is what?
Steak and kidney pudding.
Oh, steak and kidney pudding. You're not a vegetarian then, Jeff?
No, well, I love steak. From my youth, you're talking about just after the war, steak and kidney pudding was an absolute luxury. My father liked tripe, actually.
Oh, my mother loved tripe with vinegar on it.
And you know, I was saying to someone when we talked about this programme, I was saying, oh, oysters. They loved oysters because they were so cheap.
Cool, in those days.
So cheap.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this. Go on, what are we doing? Go on, steak and kidney pudding.
We've got here some chuck steak, nice and cheap.
Yep.
Some kidneys. These are pig's kidneys, but
no horse
I like no horse. Beef. No beef. Go to the butchers. We'll get some nice chuck steak. You see what that is? Don't cook it yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure I saw that in Cheltenham
I like it with calf's kidneys. You can use lamb's kidneys as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to toss that in a bit of flour.
Okay,
then add a little bit of salt and pepper added to it.
Okay.
Then the first thing you need to do, carrots and onions. Very simple. Nothing, no garlic or anything like that. Just onions and carrots. Saute or sweat them off in a pot using lard or dripping. No olive oil, no butter. Keep to the traditions, and that gives it a flavour. They're nicely softened, and then they come out the pot.
My mum used dripping.
Dripping's fine. Dripping's good.
In those days?
Yeah, dripping. It's got that beefy flavour.
We used to have bread and dripping. Dripping, spell and bread with salt on.
Absolutely.
Sitting on the doorstep.
Bread, don't you get snooty?
There we go. That's lovely. OK, pot's on a nice high heat here. So we've got our dripping in there. In it all goes. So in goes the steak and the kidney. OK, as I said, we've already softened down the vegetables. So you add that to a nice high heat, and it's important you get a bit of colour on there. So that allows the meat to caramelise, you know, and the sweetness comes out and then lifts back into the sauce. So that's over a heat. As I said, we've got salt and pepper in there. We taste that just at the end, see if it's seasoned correctly. Give that a mix about, get a bit of colour on there. Ideally, you want this a little bit hotter, but this is what we've got. So you seal this all, and of course the flour creates a thickness and a lovely richness in the sauce. So we mix that around, very straightforward.
Okay.
Then in go carrots and onions, and you see these have already been cooked. We cook them in the pot first.
Right.
They go back in they go. Give that a mix up, and then we're going to add some stout to that.
Ooh.
So a nice bit of stout.
Lovely.
There we go. In they go. There we go. Good, and that gives it that lovely, rich, dark colour.
This is that well-known brand of television stout.
That's the
which we only get on television because they take all the labels off, you see.
Bit of beef stock goes in there, a little bit of light beef stock. Just cover the meat and the kidneys, and then finally a bay leaf.
Yep.
In that goes. A bit of thyme, dry thyme. Yep. Just a whole bit of thyme. In that goes. And there we go. We let
that stays on there?
Yeah, we let that come up to the boil.
Lovely.
Cover it, and then gently cook that for about an hour.
Right.
If you go off to do something else, just gently cook it for an hour. What you end up with
Do you cook Geoffrey at all? Do you ever cook?
And I've always been appalled by people like you, Ed.
It's so simple, though, isn't it?
You make it look so simple, and when you get home, I can't do it at all. I can't even get stuffed.
You know, the real trick to good cooking... Here we go. We're going to...
2.5 minutes left. We're going to have to move it.
Oh, gosh. Suet pastry, very simple. Flour, suet, mustard, powdered English mustard, and a little bit of baking powder. One for you.
Together. All right.
One for me. These are lined with lard again.
So
you want to
cut on the inside.
Cut a little slice into this, 2/3 of the way into it, or just half. Just make a slice.
So what am I doing?
You've got a knife here.
Yeah.
Into there, and we line the pudding basin. Very simply. In it goes.
This could be interesting.
Oh,
and just in it goes. Very easy. And this is an easy paste to make. It's very simple. In it goes.
Don't laugh.
You want a bit of an edge on it?
I've got a lot of edge on it, haven't you? Most of it's on the edge.
OK. Then, in we go. Do you know, no, good cookery, it's about attention to detail.
Yes.
Take your time, if you've got it. We haven't got much.
I always say that.
Attention to detail. You don't have to create sort of culinary architecture. It's just attention to detail. Make sure this is cooled down before it goes in. How are you going, Alan? You're all right.
Oh, I'm marvellous here.
Right, spoon some of this in. Here, he's right just below the top.
Why wasn't I asked to do one of these?
You've got a good...
You want to have a go now.
You've got a better suit than I have.
You've admitted that's not your...
Keep going.
your forte. But there we go. Right, need a brush, a little water.
Do you fill it right to the top?
There we go.
Almost to the top?
Just to the top. Just below the top. Take one of these lids.
2
minutes. That hops over there. Oh, there, we've gained a bit of time. And then you crimp it down.
Oh, where did you get your top from?
There we go, there's a top. Sorry, I'm steaming ahead here. Crimp it around the edges. You've got to seal it.
Steaming ahead.
Steaming ahead, you see.
I'm joking a minute. Come on. Crimp. Yes. Am I going to trim the edge off?
I don't have the way with words that you have, of course. There we go. So we just crimp that round the edge. Nice little crimp. It's very simple. Take a sharp knife, trim off any excess, because that won't do you any good at all.
I've done that.
That bit. OK. You all right? There we are. How you going?
There we are.
Yeah, that'll do. Just as long as it's sealed. Yeah, it's got a seal on it. OK, bit of foil. Well done. Bit of foil. Make sure you make a fold in the foil, Alan. It's very important. So
fold in the foil.
As it
Jeffrey, pay attention. There'll be a test on this shot.
Pop that down there. And then we've got to tie it up with string.
How do you do that?
If you're doing that, that's perfect. Now, the best way is to do a slip knot. From the Scouts, doing a slip knot. Basically, the rabbit goes round the tree, which is your finger, and not that it can, but it goes up through the hole. And that's a nice little slip knot, means you don't need to... That goes into boiling water.
All right.
Precisely an hour and a half.
Up to where?
An hour and a half?
Hour and a half. It steams away.
Now,
one thing that's very important is to make sure, keep an eye on it, the boiling water there. You might have to top it up from the kettle, because if it boils dry, the thing's only going to burn. So cut the string off.
So the water went sort of halfway up it.
This is an hour
halfway up, hour and a half, boils away, loosen the lid, and this is just delicious. This is just like a pastry. You should get a nice little knife, loosen it around the edges.
Thank you very much.
This is a potential TV nightmare.
Oh, they're all jealous now.
Is it going to come out?
Will it come out?
Take that, pop that on there. Oh, here we go. Don't drop it.
Oh. Anybody in? Yeah. Oh, look at that.
Let's go in.
They're going in.
And in there, that lovely steak and kidney pudding.
Look at that. Can you see that?
Nice and rich.
Jeffrey, get in there.
Crisp paste.
Going in.
Down memory lane.
Yes. Well done, Ed.
Lovely.
Well done.
Good?
Yes.
And I like it, just carrots and a bit of cabbage, something like that. I don't think it needs potatoes. You've got the pastry.
I don't think it does. My thanks to Jeffrey Archer. Jeffrey Archer and Ed Baines. Stand right later. Yes, Ed will be serving up a little bit later on some more of Britain's forgotten foods, these spam and tripe here, plus Ollie Murs performs his latest single. Don't go anywhere.